What if the very thing you thought was keeping you healthy was the same thing slowly stealing your energy, your clarity, and your strength? I still remember the moment Margaret walked into my office. 71 years old, proud, independent, and up until recently, still gardening and walking 3 miles a day. But now, something was wrong. Her joints ached. Her balance was off. Her thoughts came slower than usual. And worst of all, she was exhausted every single day, no matter how much she slept. There was no diagnosis. No obvious disease. Just a creeping, silent decline that made her feel like she was slipping away piece by piece. I asked her what she ate. She smiled and said, "Oh, I eat clean, doctor. No chips, no processed food. I snack on nuts, cashews, macadamias, sometimes almonds. Only the healthy stuff." And right there, I paused. Because for most people, that sounds perfectly reasonable. But after 60, your body doesn't work the same. It's more sensitive, more reactive, and less forgiving. And some foods, yes, even ones labeled as heart healthy, can quietly wreak havoc over time. You see, not all nuts are created equal. Some truly nourish your brain, your heart, and your bones. But others, the ones hiding behind health halos, can raise your blood pressure, disturb your sleep, block vital nutrients, and even interfere with medications. And yet, millions of older adults eat them every day without a clue. Margaret had no idea that the very snack she relied on, what she believed was fueling her, was draining her instead. But here's the twist. We didn't overhaul her entire diet. We didn't start medications or supplements. All we did was make a simple switch. 2 nuts out. 2 better ones in. That's it. And what happened? Within 3 weeks, her knees stopped aching. Her thoughts felt sharper. She stopped needing that second cup of coffee in the afternoon just to stay awake. By her 8-week follow-up, she said it felt like someone had turned the lights back on. This wasn't magic, it was science. And today, I want to share that same truth with you. Because there are 4 nuts I recommend every senior eat regularly for better circulation, memory, and joint health. And there are 4 others, yes, even the popular ones, that could be silently pushing your health in the wrong direction. If you're over 60, if you care about your heart, your brain, your independence, then what you learned today might be the most important health advice you hear this year. 1 small change. 1 powerful habit. It all starts with knowing the truth about what's in your daily handful of nuts. So let's take a closer look at what's really helping you and what's quietly holding you back. 1. Walnuts. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed what a walnut looks like? Really looked. Its wrinkled surface, those deep folds and curves, it's almost identical to the human brain. And that might not be a coincidence. Because when it comes to nourishing your memory, your focus, and even your sleep, walnuts may just be the most powerful food nature ever designed for the aging mind. One of my patients, Mr. Thomas Greer, was 75. A retired math teacher from Bend, Oregon, the kind of man who used to do long division in his head for fun. But lately, he told me, numbers didn't come as easily. He forgot names more often. Conversations felt a bit slower. He wasn't in decline, but he was definitely concerned. He had tried crossword puzzles, supplements, even apps on his phone, but nothing made a difference. Then I looked at his diet. Not terrible, but one thing was missing: plant-based omega-3s. That's when I introduced him to walnuts. Just a handful a day. Not pills, not powders. Food. Walnuts are rich in ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, the plant version of omega-3. It's what your neurons need to rebuild, to fire faster, to connect the dots between thought and speech. In fact, a major study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that seniors who ate just 1.5 ounces of walnuts daily for 8 weeks improved their processing speed by over 20%. That's not subtle. That's the kind of boost you feel when you talk to your grandchildren and don't stumble over names or dates. But walnuts don't stop at memory. They're loaded with polyphenol, plant-based antioxidants that actually cross the blood-brain barrier and help reduce inflammation linked to Alzheimer's. Every bite is like a little brain shield. And if you've had trouble sleeping, they've got you covered there too. Walnuts naturally contain melatonin, the hormone your brain stops producing as you age. I've had patients tell me they sleep deeper and longer just by eating a few walnut halves before bed. Thomas came back to my clinic 2 months later with a grin. "Doc," he said, "I remember all 4 of my grandkids' birthdays this week." It may sound small, but to him, that was everything. 2. Brazil nuts. Now let's talk about a nut that doesn't look impressive. In fact, most people skip right over it at the store. But don't let the dull shell fool you. Brazil nuts are a nutritional powerhouse, and for people over 60, they may hold the key to a stronger thyroid, steadier energy, and better cellular health overall. I had a patient named Mrs. Ellen Navarro, 72, originally from Flagstaff, Arizona, elegant, always dressed well, but constantly tired. She came in with vague complaints, low energy, brittle nails, a foggy head, and a hint of sadness she couldn't explain. Nothing alarming, but something was off. Blood tests showed her thyroid function was sluggish, not broken, just quiet. When I asked what she ate, she said proudly, "Oh, I've switched to natural snacks. A mix of almonds, cashews, and peanuts." That's my suggested just one tiny change. I asked her to remove the cashews and add a single Brazil nut every morning. She looked at me like I was joking. "Just one?" "Yes. Just one. That's all it takes." Brazil nuts are the richest known food source of selenium, a trace mineral that plays a vital role in thyroid hormone activation, nerve function, and cellular repair. One Brazil nut contains over 100% of your daily selenium needs. Unlike supplements, the selenium in Brazil nuts is far more bioavailable. Your body absorbs and uses it more efficiently when it comes from food. After just 2 weeks, Ellen noticed a difference. She said her mornings felt lighter. She didn't crave her second cup of coffee. After 2 months, her blood work improved, her sleep returned, and she smiled more. We hadn't added medication. We just swapped one nut. There's something else Brazil nuts help with, your DNA. Inside your cells, the ends of your DNA strands are protected by tiny caps called telomeres. As you age, they shorten. But selenium helps protect them, slowing that aging process at the cellular level. It's subtle, quiet, but incredibly powerful. Just be careful, Brazil nuts are potent. More is not better. 1 a day is enough. 2 at most. Any more than that can actually cause selenium toxicity, which leads to nausea or nerve issues. That's why I always recommend buying them in the shell. It slows you down. It keeps them fresh. And it reminds you that nature intended them to be consumed with respect, not by the handful. So if you're looking for a change that's easy, effective, and backed by real science, start with these 2 nuts. 1 for the brain. 1 for the thyroid. Both for a better, stronger version of you. 3. Almonds. If there's one nut I wish every senior would add to their routine, it's the almond. Unassuming, familiar, maybe even boring to some, but underneath that brown skin lies a perfect blend of nutrients that can strengthen your bones, improve circulation, and even calm your nerves. Let me introduce you to Robert, 68 years old, a retired carpenter living in Wilmington, North Carolina. He came to see me not because of pain, but because of fear. "Doctor," he said, "I stopped climbing stairs." I asked why. He said his legs felt weak, like they didn't trust him anymore. Sometimes they cramped. Other times, he felt like he'd wobble and fall. He wasn't frail. He wasn't ill. But his confidence had quietly started slipping away. We ran some tests, and one thing was clear: his calcium levels were borderline low, and his magnesium? Even lower. That's when I suggested a very simple prescription: raw almonds. Just 15 to 20 each morning, no salt, no sugar, no chocolate coating. Just almonds, whole and real. In that small serving, Robert would get almost 100 milligrams of calcium, a foundation for bone strength, and a solid dose of magnesium, which plays an even bigger role than most people realize. Magnesium acts like a gatekeeper. It tells your body where to send calcium. Without it, calcium gets lost, sometimes clogging arteries instead of reinforcing bones. That same magnesium also helps relax blood vessels, lowering blood pressure and improving circulation to the legs and brain. Within weeks, Robert started walking with more ease. The cramps faded. His hands didn't shake when holding his tools anymore. By the third month, he was back on his porch roof fixing a shingle, probably not the safest choice, but he was proud. There's one more thing I always remind patients. Don't peel the almonds. The skin is where the magic is. It's packed with flavonoids, powerful antioxidants that, when combined with vitamin E, also in almonds, help protect your brain cells from aging. It's like a double shield for memory. And always avoid the salted ones. Sodium wipes out half the cardiovascular benefits. If you want flavor, toast them lightly at home or pair them with a few raisins for natural sweetness. 4. Pistachios. Now let's talk about a nut that's often overlooked because it looks like a snack you'd eat at a baseball game. But pistachios, especially when eaten the right way, offer a surprising number of benefits, particularly for seniors struggling with blood pressure, blood sugar, or eye health. Angela, a 73-year-old retired librarian from Boise, Idaho, had been battling mild hypertension for years. Her medications helped, but they made her feel sluggish. Her blood sugar wasn't high, but it tended to spike after lunch. And she was starting to notice blurry vision, especially at night. Maybe it's just age, she said. But I wasn't convinced. When we reviewed her diet, she ate mostly well, lean meats, leafy greens, a little fruit. But her snacks? Crackers. Sometimes pretzels, things easy to chew, quick to reach for. I suggested something different, pistachios. 40 per day. Yes, she looked surprised. That many? Yes. And here's why. Pistachios are low in sodium and high in potassium, about 285 milligrams per serving. That potassium helps the kidneys flush out excess salt, which gently lowers systolic pressure without the crash of medication. They also contain fiber, about 3 grams per ounce, which slows sugar absorption and stabilizes energy throughout the afternoon. Within 1 month, Angela felt steadier. Her post-lunch crashes were gone. She slept better. And she even said reading felt easier at night. That's no coincidence. Pistachios are rich in lutein and zeaxanthin, 2 carotenoids that support eye health and protect against macular degeneration, a major concern for seniors. There's also a surprising psychological benefit. Because pistachios are often sold in the shell, they naturally slow you down. You can't just shove a handful in your mouth like chips. That pause between each shell creates a rhythm, a kind of mindful eating that prevents overeating and helps you feel full with less. And if you have dental work or sensitive gums, pistachios are easier to chew than almonds or walnuts. They break softly, making them ideal for anyone with crowns or dentures. When Angela came back 6 weeks later, her numbers had improved, not just blood pressure, but also her sense of control. I don't feel like food is something I need to fight with anymore, she told me. That's what I want for every patient, simple choices that restore power, not overwhelm. Just like that, a few almonds in the morning, some pistachios in the afternoon. Not a diet. Not a punishment. Just food that loves you back. Now, up until this point, we've talked about what to add, the nuts that strengthen your bones, sharpen your mind, improve your circulation, and help you sleep better. And truly, just those small additions can make a big difference in how you feel day to day. But sometimes, it's not just about what we include, it's about what we remove. Because here's the truth, for many of my patients, the biggest breakthroughs didn't come from new habits, but from letting go of old ones. Especially the ones they thought were healthy. That's where nuts can be deceiving. They're small, natural, familiar, but not all of them serve the aging body well. In fact, for specific types, ones found in most kitchens, trail mixes, and health food aisles, can quietly contribute to inflammation, digestive problems, unstable blood sugar, and even interfere with medication or kidney function. So before you reach for your next handful, let me walk you through the 4 nuts I most often recommend my senior patients limit or avoid entirely. We'll start with the most surprising one of all. 1. Pine nuts. Not many people think of pine nuts as dangerous. They're elegant, used in fancy salads and gourmet pestos. And because they're small and light, most people assume they're harmless. But for older adults, pine nuts come with some risks that are far from obvious until they show up in the most frustrating ways. Let me tell you about Miss Dorothy Chan, a retired art teacher from Portland, Oregon, 76 years old, always cheerful and quick with a story. She came to my clinic complaining of a bitter, metallic taste that had lingered in her mouth for over a week. She said it ruined her tea, dulled her meals, and even made brushing her teeth uncomfortable. At first, I suspected dental issues or medication side effects. But when we reviewed her diet, one detail stood out. She had recently started adding pine nuts to her homemade salads. Just a spoonful or two each day. That was all. It turned out Dorothy was experiencing something called pine mouth, a rare but documented reaction that causes a metallic taste lasting anywhere from a few days to several weeks. There's no real treatment. You just have to wait it out. For seniors, especially those with reduced appetite or low body weight, this can be a serious problem. That bitter taste can discourage eating altogether, leading to unintentional weight loss or even malnutrition over time. But that's only part of the story. Pine nuts also contain oils that spoil easily, especially if they're not stored properly. When those oils oxidize, they produce compounds that can increase inflammation, especially in the joints and arteries. One of my patients with arthritis noticed a flare-up in joint pain after switching to a trail mix that included pine nuts. When we removed them, her symptoms eased within weeks. Coincidence? Perhaps. But it happened more than once. Even more concerning is that pine nuts can interfere with how your liver processes medications. Several types, including blood pressure pills, antidepressants, and cholesterol medications, depend on specific enzyme pathways in the liver. Pine nuts may slow these pathways down, altering how drugs are absorbed or broken down. For seniors who rely on precise medication dosages, this interaction isn't just inconvenient, it can be dangerous. Dorothy stopped eating pine nuts, and her taste returned to normal within 10 days. Her meals tasted good again, her appetite came back. And she was grateful to learn that even something as small as a garnish could make a big difference. So while pine nuts might seem like a healthy, natural choice, they're one nut I urge older adults to approach with caution, especially if you're on medications or sensitive to taste and digestion. 2. Peanuts. Now let's talk about peanuts, a snack so common that it barely raises a second thought. In trail mixes, granola bars, even hard healthy nut blends, peanuts show up everywhere. But there's something important you need to know. Peanuts aren't even true nuts. They're legumes, and for seniors, they come with a unique set of risks. My patient, Mr. Leonard Dwyer, age 70, living in Mobile, Alabama, had been eating peanuts since childhood. Every evening while watching the news, he'd snack on a bowl of roasted peanuts, plain, salted, sometimes honey-coated. When I first met him, he was complaining of bloating, joint stiffness, and a lingering pain in his upper right abdomen. His blood pressure was also creeping up, despite being on medication. We did the usual tests. Nothing alarming. But his liver enzymes were mildly elevated, and his diet raised a red flag. Peanuts, especially when grown and stored in humid conditions, are prone to contamination by aflatoxins, toxic molds that can damage the liver over time. Even if you don't see mold, trace amounts can accumulate, especially in cheap or improperly stored peanuts. But aflatoxins aren't the only issue. Peanuts are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which, when consumed in excess, can disrupt the body's inflammatory balance. Most people already eat too many omega-6 and not enough omega-3s, and that imbalance can fuel systemic inflammation, leading to more joint pain, brain fog, and cardiovascular stress. And here's something many people overlook. Peanuts contain vitamin K, which interacts directly with blood-thinning medications like warfarin. Even modest amounts can alter clotting times, making it harder to manage the dosage safely. When I asked Leonard if he was taking a blood thinner, he said yes. His doctor had warned him about leafy greens but never mentioned peanuts. Once he cut them out, his INR levels stabilized, and the bloating disappeared. His energy even improved. Even peanut butter, a staple in many homes, isn't as innocent as it seems. Most commercial brands are loaded with hydrogenated oils, sugar, and salt, a triple threat for the heart, liver, and waistline. Even the so-called natural versions can be high in sodium and incredibly easy to overconsume. One spoonful turns into 3 without even noticing. Peanuts are cheap. They're convenient. But for older adults managing blood pressure, inflammation, or medication balance, they can quietly cause more harm than good. If you love them, treat them like a treat, not a daily staple. 3. Cashews. Evelyn Doyle was a retired bookkeeper from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, who came to see me with a question many of my patients eventually ask: why am I gaining weight even though I'm eating healthy? Evelyn didn't eat junk, no fried food, no soda. She walked every morning, did light yoga. Her main snack? A handful of cashews every afternoon. They're better than cookies, she said. Aren't they? At first glance, yes. Cashews look like the perfect health food, natural, plant-based, full of good fats. But here's the twist: they're one of the highest carb nuts out there. Just 1 ounce is around 9 grams of carbohydrates and barely any fiber. That means cashews raise blood sugar more rapidly than other nuts, and for seniors, especially those with prediabetes or energy issues, that spike can be followed by a sharp crash, low mood, fatigue, and brain fog. That's exactly what Evelyn was feeling. Midday slumps, trouble focusing, cravings she couldn't explain. And on top of that, her bone skin showed early signs of thinning. That's when we uncovered another hidden truth about cashews. They're rich in oxalates, compounds that bind with calcium and make it harder for the body to absorb. For someone like Evelyn, who was already losing bone density, this seemingly harmless snack was compounding the problem. And if that weren't enough, most store-bought cashews are roasted in oil and heavily salted. Additives that only increase inflammation and stress the kidneys. Many seniors with borderline kidney function don't realize how easily these kinds of snacks can push them into discomfort. Once Evelyn swapped cashews for a mix of almonds and a few fresh apple slices, her blood sugar stabilized. Her energy returned. She even dropped 5 pounds over the next few months without dieting. It was like flipping a switch, she told me at her follow-up. Cashews aren't toxic in the traditional sense, but for older adults trying to manage weight, sugar, and bone health, they can quietly undo a lot of hard work. Once in a while as a treat? Sure. But not every day. Not if you want your body working for you, not against you. 4. Macadamia. If cashews are the sweet saboteur, then macadamias are the silent seducers. Rich, buttery, smooth, they carry a certain elegance. They make you feel like you're snacking responsibly, even luxuriously, but for older adults, that indulgence can come with a heavy cost. One of my patients, Franklin Hayes, age 74 from Naples, Florida, used to eat macadamias like most people eat almonds. I thought they were heart-healthy, he said. And they're soft, so they're easy on my teeth. That last part was true, they're easier to chew. But beneath the surface, macadamias carry one of the highest fat contents of any nut, about 22 grams of fat per ounce. And most of that fat is saturated. Now, a small amount of saturated fat isn't dangerous in itself. But in seniors with slower metabolisms and less efficient bile production, that kind of fat load can put stress on the gallbladder, an organ that many people forget until it starts complaining. In Franklin's case, his post-snack routine always came with a dull ache under his right rib cage. It wasn't sharp, but it was consistent. After a few tests, we found early signs of gallbladder irritation. He didn't need surgery. He just needed to stop overloading his system with high-fat snacks. And macadamias? They were leading the charge. Even worse, macadamias are deceptively soft, so soft, in fact, that it's easy to overeat without noticing. You can eat 10 in a row without chewing hard. That creaminess gives a false sense of lightness, when in reality, you're consuming 200 calories in a single handful. Not a great choice if you're trying to lose weight or manage cholesterol. And let's not forget storage. The healthy oils in macadamias oxidize quickly when exposed to air or light. That means if you're buying them in big, pre-shelled containers and keeping them in the pantry, chances are the fats have already started to go rancid. Rancid oils are inflammatory, they irritate your gut lining, dull your energy, and stress your liver. Franklin scaled back dramatically. Now, he saves macadamias for holidays or special weekends. I enjoy them more now, he said, because they don't come with regret. And that's the key. Macadamias are poison, but they're not built for everyday snacking, not at our age. Not if we care about weight, liver health, or digestive ease. So the next time you reach into the pantry and grab a nut that feels too good to be true, pause for a second. Ask your body if it agrees. Because sometimes, the most elegant foods are the ones that need the closest watch. So, we've covered a lot. For nuts that support your brain, heart, and bones, walnuts, Brazil nuts, almonds, and pistachios, and for that may quietly work against you, cashews, macadamias, pine nuts, and peanuts. And remember, it's not about fear. It's about understanding. Because after 60, your body becomes more responsive, more affected by what you eat, both positively and negatively. And every small change you make now can shape how you feel tomorrow. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just start with one swap. Maybe it's trading cashews for almonds, or choosing a Brazil nut instead of your usual snack. That one decision, made daily, can set off a ripple effect, better energy, better sleep, better stability. I've seen it happen in my patients. And if you've been feeling tired, foggy, or just not like yourself lately, this could be your place to start. Now it's your turn. Let me know in the comments below, which nut are you adding, and which one are you letting go? I read every story, and they often help guide others just like you. And if this video opened your eyes or helped you in any way, please consider giving it a like, sharing it with a friend, and subscribing to this channel. Here at Better Health, we believe aging should come with wisdom, not fear. Stay strong, stay sharp, and snack smart. We're with you every step of the way.